everyone. We are back for a little teacher talk, and today we're talking about how to close out the year and to feel good about where you're ending. So I'm Kandyce.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Angie.
And so we want to start with just a little bit of reflection on the year and how it's gone for everyone. What are you feeling right now? Kim, you want to start?
Tired.
Right.
I'm tired. There's so much going on at the end of the year with all of our school functions, but I've been trying to just focus on my kids and my classroom. And I like to end every year making sure that I reflect. I like to write down in a journal how things went, the good, the bad, the ugly, and maybe how I could tweak some things or change things up for next year. And it's not just me reflecting on me, but also on my students and what they needed. And getting the students to reflect on their year, I think, is really important at this time.
Yeah, for sure.
I think sometimes that's hard. Because a lot of times I'll catch myself maybe really beating myself up and feeling like at the beginning of the year, I thought I was going to get through here. And like this year, I taught US history and I didn't get as far into my standards as I wanted. And this is the most shallow I've ever got. And I can't believe, like, I just felt a lot of pain from that and inadequacy and really struggling with the fact that I didn't make it I didn't make it as far as I needed to have made it, And so that I think can be really challenging. If teachers feel like they didn't get the growth that they had hoped they'd got, or they couldn't get all the way through the standards the way that they had expected that they would. Yeah. And so I wonder if that's a common thing or if it's just me that feels that way.
No, I feel like teachers we know we're our own worst critics. So we're just automatically going to think about like what we missed out on, what we didn't get to, and how things could have gone better when we could have done all these amazing things along the way. But it's easier to focus on the stuff that didn't quite work out.
I think, we need to be kind to ourselves because we are our own worst critics, but we need to be honest too with what students were brought to us. What did we begin the year with? And the behaviors, the learning gaps, the disparity in ability. So I think it's realistic and not bad. We didn't get to everything at least I didn't get it to everything that I wanted to. My eyes are always bigger than what I'm capable of getting out to my students. But we have to be realistic in our expectations and what we thought we could get to or what we couldn't get to and why. We spent a lot of time just teaching behaviors, how to not interrupt, how to listen, how to follow directions, how to be kind, how to function in the classroom.
Yeah, I feel like we start out the year with like all these goals, and I know at least I am like very meticulous about writing everything down in my planner and getting everything planned. And by about February, I stop using it. And it's just like I'm flying by like day by day. Oh, what's happening today? Okay, let's put this fire out. Let's do this thing. Let's accomplish whatever I can today, because everything is just flying at that point. You're trying to finish teaching everything. You're trying to get it all in before testing starts. Then you're doing testing, and then you're trying to recover from that. And it's so much.
Well, teaching is fluid, and every it seems like the more I plan out, I've wasted a lot of time because I get into the middle of my lesson and I realize this is not what the kids need. I'm losing them. And so teaching is fluid, and we're changing on a dime every day what we're teaching, how we're teaching. If you're a reflective teacher and you're in tune with your students, which I'm hoping that everybody is, but we need to make sure that we're fluid in meeting the kids' needs. And sometimes that doesn't fit our planner. you know,
No,
what we
no.
wrote down.
But we're always optimistic that we're going to be able to plan for everything in the year.
Yes, yes.
It doesn't always work out that way. In fact, most of the time, it doesn't work out that way. And, but I think that's the most important part about being a teacher is that reflection piece and thinking about, what could I have done differently? What do the kids still need that maybe I didn't have in my original plan, but they really need it. So I need to take some time out.
So I know in my reflection, I caught myself really beating myself up, not just because I didn't get as far through the standards as I would have wanted, but I caught myself kind of in a, did I really get through to my kids this year? And feeling like maybe I wasn't as connected to them as I have other years. Partially because I'm single subject now. I don't have a block, so I don't get to see them twice. Partially because I had pretty big class sizes. Also, I had a lot of transitions in and out of students throughout the year. So I had a big influxes moving in and out. But just wondering, like, I feel like I showed up every day and worked really hard.
Yeah.
And why don't I feel maybe the emotional payoff? And I was kind of in this toxic circle of like, do my kids even, did we even connect? Did they even really feel how much I cared about them? Did that get across? What happened with the actual emotional bond piece versus even, separate from the academic piece? And I was really struggling with that and thinking, I don't even know if I made a difference in these kids' lives. And it's just incredible how intuitive children are. And so I'm thinking that all day and thinking, gosh, comparing myself to other teachers on campus that are like, oh, they're so amazing and they connected with their students and they did all of this right and they're so cool, and why couldn't I have, and all these really unhealthy toxic thoughts that I should have never had, right? And I'm just in my class and this kid shows up with this note, and this kid is like super intelligent, should have been in honors, but makes some maybe not healthy choices to push herself. And she writes me like one of the most heartfelt letters that I've ever been given in my life about how I changed her life, how she's going to graduate from high school, about how it's important. I taught her a lot in history, but that's not what is important. I modeled what a good person was, and that I helped people I didn't even know I helped. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And it was such
Amazing.
A reality check for like, what am I doing comparing? Like, that's not healthy. I know better than to compare. And I know better than to, it was just a stupid, like, beating on myself for no reason. And I think I'm tired. And so it's easy just to feel like I don't make a difference. And it's, and I feel like maybe when we're tired and overwhelmed, we forget that we are what we're really doing and why we're here. And
we get so wrapped up, I think, in everything. And just at this point in the year, like trying to survive the day. We have 5 more days of school, 4 with students. And so we're just trying to make it to the end. And we forget to it's easy to miss all those little things. And, I know from being around your students, like how much they love you and how much they appreciate you. But these are middle school kids. We're all at the middle school, and they don't always say that.
And I'm sure elementary is even hard. Like, I think about that. Where by high school, I feel like they are maybe a little more adept. At least when I taught high school, I felt like that. But I think it's a good point. I think teachers, you're making more of a difference than you realize. And we'll say it for your students.
I was just going to tell you that, Angie. Like, I was just going to say, I know you made more of a difference in your kids' lives than you believe. And maybe a way to rectify that would be to ask them, hey, can you tell me how you felt about this year? Have them do
what works.
I know they're going to say, what did you like? What did you not like? They're all going to say, no more homework, right?
Right. They say, you're hard. You're my hardest teacher.
But that's good, right? We were talking about that the other day, that well,
let's talk about our collaboration, because that's
yeah.
So that's what I love about the end of the year is after testing, we have time. I think it's a perfect time to try new things as teachers that we haven't in the past. And Angie and I brought my 6th graders over to Angie's 8th graders 2 days in a row. And man, the 3rd day, they're like, are we going? We want to go over there. And
it was amazing.
It was. we, what did we have them do? We had
So
them.
the sixth
we had
graders showed up. I think it's important to start at the beginning because our campus, as there's a lot of fighting and a lot of like problems in the sixth grade and the eighth grade.
A lot of drama.
A lot of drama. And they haven't really had an opportunity to collaborate that much. And so I teach the Civil War. I know I should have got through the progressive era, but it didn't happen. So again, the guilt, but I wanted to do a fun activity. Our grades are already due. And I wanted to really solidify the importance of boats, Titanic and all that fun stuff. So we did Battleship, talking about steam power and stuff. We were doing grids. And I was in a funk, kind of like I was saying, but like beating myself up over the year. And Kim kind of had said a similar thing. She was having an off day. And I was like, bring your math kids and come grid with me. Right. And so just spontaneously, she brought her 6th hour to my 6th hour. And it was incredible.
Yeah, sure. We were reinforcing your social studies and their math abilities on the coordinate plane, graphing their battleships. And it was loud, but it was a fun loud, and everybody was engaged. It was a great experience for the kids and Angie and I alike, being able to see the kids in a different setting and working together across grade levels.
The 6th graders came in just terrified originally, and it took like quite some time to get them seated. And of course, I had to talk with the 8th graders before. I was like, "This is our home. You need to make them feel welcome." And then once they got started, I know the kids at our school love talkies, so I said, if everybody works all day the whole time together and plays well, then talkies might appear. And it was incredible how quiet and excited they got. And and then they just started, oh, you get talkies. And then you could hear the din of happiness start. And then they were gritting. And so then the next day, I just reminded them, I pulled out the talkies and I was like, look, I have them, but you don't get them till the end. And one of the things we did that helped reflect our teachers, our teaching styles for our reflection that helped Kim answer the question you were saying is, how did the kids feel about me as a teacher? We had them take the FLAIR teacher style quiz for us. And it was amazing. So we just said, get on. So the last second day, her kids had to come because they had Chromebooks that my kids had lost their Chromebooks. So they had to share technology.
Well, they had returned them. They
didn't lose them.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Because we're already returning textbooks. Yeah. Precision. They had started returning textbooks because, like I said, we're like at the end of the school year, but 8th graders returned early because they're not coming back to the school and they're not even in the same district next year. So, anyway, continue.
So it was cool though, because they had us for 2 days. So they had both of us teach together the Battleship Day. And then we did a little war game, which was really fun, where they did math facts with war, which was awesome. And then we had them take the teacher survey to see. Kim, what did you think of the results?
I think they were spot on. I was I got voted most as a vintage teacher, but then only two of our teacher styles came up, and it was vintage and power dresser, which I feel every time I take the quiz, I'm battling those two myself. So I feel that the kids are very they're good observers. And we've spent a lot of time together. Think of all the hours we've spent together, and they notice, and they know you better than you think they do. And they were spot on.
They probably know their teachers better than the teacher knows themselves, because they're in these different classes with all the teachers of different styles. And for them to see that questionnaire and answer those questions, I kind of feel like that's going to be a more honest answer than when we do it ourselves. Because when I took it myself, I'm thinking like it's hard to think about like how you really are and how you want to be, because there's kind of that battle,
disconnect.
Am I like this every single day or majority of the time, or is this just how I like aim to be and what I plan for? And the kids know like the reality 100%.
Well, this was a hurtful situation, but I had a student this year who we were conferencing with. He showed great growth, but he just he didn't want to do anything that I asked. And it's like, well, I'm the teacher. I'm kind of leading the whole group. I'm not asking this student to do anything that I'm not asking everybody else to do. But he blurts out in the middle of our conference, I just wish you were like so-and-so, another teacher.
Yeah.
He goes,
Yeah.
why can't you just be like Mrs. blah, 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 right? And I'm like, and I was really insulted, but then, looking at the teacher's styles, different students connect with different teacher styles, and there's value to all of them. And so now it's my goal to figure out what is it that teacher has that they do that really drew the student to her. And I think it's really important that we look at the styles and look at the strengths of each and how students connect or maybe don't connect.
Right. And we know, like, year after year, you're going to have different students that connect more strongly to you and others who connect more strongly to a completely different style of teacher. But that's important for them. They need to learn how to work with multiple styles
To navigate it and still be successful.
And appreciate it. And that means we have to appreciate it with ourselves and other people. And that's what they helped me with. So I ended up getting in one class. The vast majority said that I was a power dresser. And then in another class, the vast majority said I was vintage with hippie. And in the class before, it was power dresser with fashionista and hippie. And there were a lot of questions that the kids were like, can we pick all of them or whatever? They like, there were a lot. But I was talking to the ones with vintage because I thought that was interesting because I try in middle school to be less vintage, but certainly when I taught AP in high school, that's my thing. But I try to be like lots of games and novelty and they just kept I had them read the descriptions and they were pulling it out and they're like, but you're persistent, but you make us learn the material, but you never let us get F's. And that's what makes you a vintage. And I like that. Wow. I never thought about that part of my teaching. I thought they would be like, you're fun, you bring Takis, the relaxed hippie side. But to have these kids who had F's in a lot of other teachers' classes call me vintage, and I was like, oh, they think I'm the hard ass, right? Like that was like my like they're saying like when they saw that kind of disappointed look on my face because I tried so hard to be more power dressed. I couldn't help it. I had like kind of a disappointed look because I am vintage, but I'm trying to hide it more.
It's the accountability. Your
that's what they said.
Piece. And I feel like as we move through our periods, our classes, like I'm double blocked, I'm cord where you're not. I believe that we do pick up different styles from different teachers based on our classes and what they need. And right. So it's a different dynamic for all your classes. You may be more power dresser with one class because of the dynamics versus more vintage with another or hippie or whatever. Yeah.
And to your point, when I looked at the names of who put me as hippie, it was my 100% and higher. When like the kids who aced all my tests, did the extra credit, they had me as hippie. They had me as like really laid back. No, like that's how they saw me, which I thought was really interesting. And when I looked at my kids who had me in vintage, they were kids who frequently struggle in other classes, have a lower GPA, who had more growth this year, who maybe started as first grade readers and ended the year as fifth grade readers. So I'm sure I was like pushing on them all year and like super persistent and like, now, you have to read this. But what was amazing, and so please, if you're listening to this, you should definitely have your kids take the style quiz and then ask them questions about why you're that style, because it made me feel so good. And I could see in their aha moment how good it was for them.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden they had this level of appreciation for, we had this level of appreciation for each other. Like I had an appreciation for how hard I really pushed them and how hard they were trying for me that I don't think I would have had if we wouldn't have had that conversation where I really was like, for you, I was like, I didn't think I was that hard, but for them, the way they were talking about it, they were working. It was hard. They were showing up. And sometimes as teachers, I think we don't know where to put that bar. And so like, I thought I was kind of low this year. Come to find out from some student feedback, I was higher than I thought I was, you know? And so I think, wow, what a fun way to like learn to appreciate styles in my kids and get to collaborate with you. It was just cool. It was a magical deal.
I mean,
I
there's a
think
lot of reflection in that piece where they're kind of reflecting on the whole year and everything that they've learned and done.
I think it brings such value, not just to the teachers, but having the students recognize and realize, you know, we're talking about different teacher styles. We're talking about, oh yeah, I connect more with so-and-so, or I appreciate this from this teacher and that from another teacher. It's really, I think, opening up the conversation of understanding different personalities and appreciating different teachers from their perspective. I think it's helping to help me build relationships with my own students, having these conversations. So it's a two-way positivity there, I think.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. So in doing that, I feel like we are empowered to kind of embrace those abilities that we have and the strengths that we have within our styles. And
Yeah.
you're saying that you didn't want to be vintage.
I didn't want to be vintage.
I feel like
so happy when fifth hour said I was power dresser. I was like, they were like power dresser, hippie fashionista. I was like, sweet. I was 6 hours like, no, vintage. I was like,
I know.
and why did I have that bias?
I don't know. I don't know.
that's-
Isn't that interesting? Because you know, every style has its strengths, but I think we just want to be a certain way because we think that's what our kids need in our
Or
classroom.
like in mine, I think I've been beat up my whole life for being a little bit of a hard ass, because like I'm pretty academically rigorous and motivated, and I've taught a lot of AP classes. And while we are frequently the teachers that the kids come back for years and years and years and say things like, you were right. Thank you for teaching me to write. You know, they send you that text at one random morning in February. I'm the only kid with an A in my class because you taught me how to write. Nobody else knows MLA style, you know? Or they text you in September and they're like, thank you so much for writing that narrative. I cleaned that story up and handed it in, and we just won a contest with it, you know? And so you're getting those kind of texts all year from kids you had fought. I just got in touch with one of my students 8 years ago, and she just got into an Ivy League, and she wanted to tell me, you know, and to say thank you. I don't think at the time, sometimes vintage especially, I don't think at the time we necessarily always get that love, because I definitely think we get your tests are so hard and your notes are so difficult, and like, why are you always pushing me? And so I think that can be hard.
Yeah.
We get, as a vintage teacher, you get pushback. You get pushback from students and sometimes staff members, even your peers, because you have really high expectations, and I expect everybody to work in my class, you know, and for some reason every year I have students coming who think they can just hang out.
Right.
You know, I'm here so I should pass, right? But
you're cute, we love you, do the work though.
right. So
yeah, we had a discussion about this earlier. We were talking about how rough the end of the year is, and it's a video called End of the Year is Rough. And so we were kind of talking about that disconnect where we need teachers who are vintage teachers and simply stylish, but there's such an emphasis placed on like everything else and engagement and having fun in the classroom and doing all these things. But we really, really do need that down to business, getting things done, teaching standard, heavy. Yeah. And the structure. But yeah, I think it's kind of, we get so much pushback from society to be engaging and put on a show. Everything that the kids today really need to be a piece of it.
You know what was so powerful? So I even mentioned that. I was like, what are you saying? I said to them, I pushed back. I was like, I do novelty for you all the time. And I started listing all the novelty that I do. And one of my top students just looks at me and he goes, yeah, but you get down to business. You give lectures and you make us listen. And I was like, do you like lectures? And he looks at me deadpan and he goes, my favorite days were the days that you would lecture and make me take notes.
That's
Wow.
not
In 8th
right?
grade. And
Yeah.
it's not the days that I brought in all kinds of candy and that I did different stations and that they did. His favorite days were the days I did direct instruction and I used all my knowledge about the subject to tell stories from the past and try to relate them to the kid.
Yeah. And I think that's a gift that vintage teachers have, is the knowledge of your subject matter is so deep that you just automatically make it interesting for the students.
So hopefully vintage teachers are feeling like good about
Yeah.
themselves today. Because I know like I was like, ooh, but I think every style is so important and has to be celebrated equally. And I don't know, as we end the year with style, right? And I have my final reflection piece. I think what I'm trying to do is I found this quote about comparison that I wanted to read because it kind of inspired this section. If that's okay, can I read it now?
Yeah, that'd be
So
great.
it's by Marcus Garvey, who was an African-American activist. And he said, comparing yourself with others is nothing but a waste of your time and energy. Be true to yourself and trust that you will always come out as the winner in the end. And I was thinking, I am a winner in the end because every teacher who's still in the classroom is a winner. Every teacher who showed up for graduation of their kids and, you know, who's smiling every day and still being there for them, expecting them and being, you know, providing a safe, consistent environment where the structure is clear and they know that they have a place to belong is winning. And it's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And especially at this time of year, like you're getting to work every day, you have something for your students to do, you're connecting with them, like that's winning. It's, yeah.
And I feel like if we just take a deep breath and go, you know what, we survived this year, we did our best, we won, it was great. Like it can be that simple. And then just think of, so then for me, I was like, I just need to think about what I'm grateful for. And like, I was so grateful for my collaborations this year. Kim and I had a blast. I worked with the other English teacher. I got to work with Kandyce a lot. She came in, we did a singing collaboration. I mean, we had the entire 8th grade class learn a Martha Washington dance in the gym.
Yeah,
It was a blast.
How fun.
And, you know, I've never done anything like that. So I was grateful to get to do it and how fun it was and how it almost felt like field trips on those days because you just got to relax.
And I feel like that comes from that collaboration because you and I are a little bit different style where I tend to move towards like power dresser engagement is my goal. But you have all this content knowledge and depth that the combination of those is really fun.
Yeah, it was amazing. And it was amazing what we could be done. And with Kim, I just kept telling Kandyce over and over again. It was so cool to be working with a teacher who had total control. We could have 60 kids in a classroom.
Yeah.
And we had total control. Not a single behavior problem.
They were practicing math facts and they were working on a coordinate plane and it was awesome. I want to start the year with a plan to do, you know, I know in elementary school, they do it all the time. Buddy teachers,
they have the
school buddies, right?
Older kids. Yeah.
So we already talked about wanting to having, you know, set up from the beginning of the year, once a month, have collaboration. It can be around the holidays. It can be, you know, obviously we want it to be academic, but also you're building relationships and bonds between grade levels with the students and mentoring, which I think goes to school culture.
Yeah, that helps our school culture. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Especially like our 6th graders are pretty separated from the other grade levels where their classrooms are. They're mostly in one area of the school. They have a separate lunch and most of them just have 6th grade classes. There's a few that have, you know, combination, but having them have this positive experience with 8th graders, which probably some of them are a little bit intimidated by.
Oh, they were.
There's so much growth
They
that
didn't want to
happens.
walk in the room.
They were
just
so
Yeah.
intimidated, just trying to. And Mike's kids were so sweet. Even my rougher kids were like, "Come
Yeah.
on, you're okay. What's your name?" You know, it's very cute.
Yeah, I mean, physically, the difference between 6th and 8th grade is
And we don't work at the like
huge.
most behaved school in the country by far. So, and we're doing this like you can do it. It's doable.
And you know what I think was really cool for the kids is they see us setting an example of collaborating and working together and getting along and being kind to each other. And it was also fun for me because those 8th graders were my 6th graders 2 years ago when we
Oh,
went on Zoom and virtual learning. So, and I recognized them, and it was so fun to see them and remember them. And they sure felt very special when they knew I remembered them.
mhm.
It was meaningful on a whole nother level.
Yeah, yeah. That's
So
amazing.
yeah, it hit the social emotional piece. It hit the academic piece. I learned to always say explain before why plane when doing grading, which was great. Which was right. She's like, ordered pairs. This help, you know, I'm like, it was great, right?
Horizontal,
Yeah,
vertical.
she got me
right?
using the right, you know, because I'm going like this way. She's like, we say horizontal. And you know, because I don't know, I don't teach math. I've never taught math, so I'm just
Right.
happy to get them to do the skills. So it was really fun to like incorporate that more because I'm going to use math language now in a way that I, you know, vocabulary in a way that I wouldn't have. But then emotionally, it was like fun.
Mhm.
I needed that as a teacher. I needed to be with another teacher and have that breath of fresh air. And it just brought, it was magical. We both went from being kind of having a surly day to like, by the time our kids left, we were like smiling ear to ear. It was so fun. And
I know. Well, I called you and said, I'm coming over. You called me and I'm like, I'm kind of not in a really good place right now. And it changed just like that.
And I bet the kids picked up on that too. And that was probably pretty amazing for them to see because, you know, they pick up on everything, especially their teacher moods. And for them to see like, oh, my teacher, like they were working together and they were having fun. And this is such a great thing that I can do this with my peers. And so you set a really great example for them by doing that.
And it reminded me of so many things to be grateful for too.
Hmm.
You know, like it's so great to have someone like him at my site.
Yeah.
Like that's so cool. Yeah, right. I know, but like it just reminds me. I mean, the whole point of FLAIR is that we as educators learn to support each other authentically and show up for each other. And it was so amazing how it was easy. That was one of the easiest days of teaching of my whole life. Like it was easy. It was fun. Both days when the kids came back, they were even more excited. Our only problem was they were so excited and so happy. We had volume problems. So we had to ring the little bell and they'd be quiet, come down. Then they'd start quiet for a while and then they get really loud again. But they were totally interested in the game and doing the math and the history parts of it, like of the challenge. They were just so invested in it that there was volume. And so, oh, what a problem to have.
Yeah.
Kids like so engaged with each other and the learning that they're talking to loudly, you know, that's great.
So if you haven't tried this at your school, I mean, I guess we're kind of challenging you to do that, especially in this last month of school or last couple days or last week or whatever. Find that buddy where you can collaborate, you can have your kids work together, you can try something new and really let us know how it goes because that's exciting. It's always exciting.
And
We kind of get stuck in our own bubble, right? This pushes us out of our comfort zone a bit. But I think the rewards are worth it.
for easy lesson plans, you can just think about what that other subject is. And like, so for ours, if you went history to math, you can do battleship, you get free grids online. It'll show you exactly how to do it. We did war where they would flip the cards, but then they had to do the math equation. And whoever got it first could, you know, get the cards, right? And then they had to do it. Then my class had to calculate how many soldiers died in each battle based on the cards to try to get an understanding of how big the battles of the Civil War were and how many of the soldiers actually died. So they're getting scope on that. But then if you're going like English to history, you can do something as simple as writing stories and sharing stories with each other, everybody getting together in circles, and you start a story and pass it around until each group has a story they can share out. If you're doing science, they have tons of experiments. I found one to collaborate with science where they show us how to do canon. So you can just do an experiment based on whatever they're doing in history or math. So there's lots and lots of ways you can do just a very simple lesson plan that you can come together. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. In fact, Kim and I's was really basic. And I think that's part of the reason it was so successful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I
It
think
wasn't overly complex.
right, which is exactly what we need this time of year, where the kids are just, they're coming, they're in the moment, and they're just enjoying it.
One that's super easy if you end up with a lot of kids for history, do 4 corners and talk about the importance of attrition.
Right.
And how people die off. And I mean, it's just like simple movement right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Right.
great.
You could do 4, I mean, in math, you could do 4 corners, just reviewing factors. Put one number in each corner and hand out cards with numbers. And are you a factor of this number or that number, and go to those corners. There's a lot of new things that I've been trying with numbers and handing number cards. Create an equation, make a true statement with these cards and these numbers. But
and I think that's
really
Kim, as you say that,
outside of the box.
That's also part of kindness, because they're playing 4 corners for 10 minutes or one cycle or whatever. And you get to just relax and have fun with your kids. And now's the time of year to do that, because you've won, you've made it.
You've made it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just let us know how that goes in your classroom. If you need some ideas, send us an email, flair.educators@gmail.com. And we'd love to collaborate with you as well.
Yeah, class to class would be amazing. Also, if you have other ideas to share with us that you want us to try, please let us know.
Yes.
That would be amazing.
That would be great. We want you to remember that teachers who care teach with FLAIR, and we're here for you.
So like and subscribe. Please support us. Become part of our FLAIR family. And if you have any ideas for videos you'd like us to talk about, please tell us in the comments below.
Comments, yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Happy last week, last night.
You got it. You got this.
Year end.
You can do it.